Hello and welcome back to the next Summoner Scuffle between Devlinfish and the Beast Slumbers. How's it going, Fuzzy?
I'm good. I am good.
And so yeah, today we're doing Skyspear Avians versus Savanna Elves, which I believe we have never had Savanna Elves on the Scuffle. Am I crazy? Or
You
do you
are
remember
not
that as well?
crazy. No, I mean, I think we tend to overlook the master set when we're doing this because of Cult of the New and everything else. But
Yeah.
Elves is one of those factions that's been very consistently A tier, some say S tier, you know.
I
So
would have
it's
swapped it. I feel like most people will tell you S.
yes.
Um,
No. I was going back in time, back when Polar Dwarves was the
that's
indisputable
true.
S
That's true.
tier.
That's true. That's true.
Sky Scare, you Savannah Elves set the bar as A tier.
Yeah.
And obviously, once Polar Dwarves got nerfed, Savannah Elves became the new S tier. But I mean, it was considered pretty acceptable for a long time. And then I think people's standards rose.
Yeah. uh
And I think the other S tier factions are more clearly S tier. Not in terms of Savannah Elves being stronger or weaker, but in I think just having a couple of them up there, I think has more of an effect on the meta.
yeah.
But I'm not your tier list guy. Why are we talking tier lists?
You can never escape it. Anything you want to say to introduce the contestants?
A lot to say. I am excited about these guys. I think there's two themes here of changing of the guard. One is that the Beast Slumbers has been tearing through tournaments and the ranked play rankings. And the other is that Devlinfish is one of the organizers of the Summoner Academy, which is something new we're launching this year to help people, ease into competitive play. Take that first step, and maybe you're not sure if you want to even do this or if you're any good. But okay, here is the so-called kiddie pool that everyone's been asking for, except I don't think it's going to be a kiddie pool. I think people are going to be out for blood, even if they're new.
I
So it's going to be fun.
when I was new for the league, I was ever so out for I was out for blood much more so than than these days.
Well, the complaint about League, and it's an acceptable one, is that you're thrown in the deep end immediately. It's deceptive that we have these divisions 1 through 5, but in reality, everyone in D5 is already pretty darn good.
Yes.
Ranging from pretty darn good to like returning veteran climbing back to D1 and out to slaughter everyone.
Yes.
So that's
It's
why people have asked for something other than leaping into the deep end, in your first go before you've memorized all the card rules. So Summoner Academy is that, but we already have some very strong apprentices, so it's going to be fun. But the idea is let's make it less intimidating. Let's make it more social. Let's truly be hard nosed about keeping it for new players and not just have experienced players curb stomping. So hopefully, we're training up the new generation. Devlinfish is part of that, and it's going to be exciting to get a chance to talk to him and how he sees his own journey from newcomer to the guy training up newcomers. I make it sound so serious, like it's a training academy. It's really, really, really not.
it
You know,
sounds really fun, like to especially the mentorship program to just like have someone to chat with while you're playing these games and be like, wait, how do I beat Shadow Elves?
and
Oh, you
that's the
don't.
idea.
No.
Yeah, you don't. They're S plus, unbeatable. That's the idea, like everything we say makes it sound like we're so hardcore, and some of us are definitely, but the idea here is really just, ease the social barriers to entry. It's weird. Discord is intimidating. As a woman, I kind of assume toxic the moment I walk into a Discord. Sorry. And, this is really our way of not being toxic, of like being welcoming, of saying, like, yes, it is possible to have a healthy, inclusive online community. If you've never played competitively before, this is the place to start. No one's going to be scrutinizing win-loss records or, having it be on your permanent record the way it kind of feels like with League. In reality, I think no one looks at League standings and goes, oh, this guy started out with, 0-10 in D5 4 seasons ago. I don't think anyone remembers, notices, or cares, but I do remember feeling very self-conscious about that when I first started League. So this is all a public service announcement of, if you've never considered competitive play, please do. Water's warm, people are welcoming, and we brought these contestants on to kind of talk up that theme. And also, I should add, Devlinfish and TheBeastSlumbers are teammates in the Shabada Bang, Shabada Boom tournament, which is also a community-run tournament. It's where players are playing as a team rather than as individual competitors. And that team is destroying the competition. That team is tearing their way through the rest of the playing field and some of the very established players. So it's exciting to see, everyone, see what happens. Does Vexer have a real challenger now?
Yes, well, we'll have to ask them about that after the game, and also about, I'm just curious to hear more about the creation of the Summoner Academy. But since we only have a few minutes, we should go ahead and introduce the factions that are going to be on today. Let me pull that up real quick. Do you wanna start with a quick one about Skyspear Avians or Savanna Elves? Take your pick.
I will do Skyspear Avians in, let's say, 10 words or less.
All right, let's hear
How
it.
about makes every battle way more fun?
And
okay, you want me to expound on that?
Just a little bit.
Yes. All right, so they're birds, they fly. And if I want to be analytical about it, I think their toolkit is such that they can play offense, they can play defense, they can go after the turtling faction, they can, stand back and shoot at you from range. So it just feels like every game against Skyspear Avians is a little bit unpredictable and really somehow, like I said, maximizes whatever it maximizes whatever what the other faction can do. Like, they have to do interesting things against Skyspear Avians. And I think that's actually why I would characterize it as just making that faction makes every game better, is because the opponent plays in dynamic and interesting ways. The Avians might be on their side of the board, they might be all on your side of the board in the back row, but it just makes games dynamic. And it makes you see things you don't usually see in other matchups. So that's my plug for Skyspear Avians being the funnest faction of all time. And I know you agree with this.
Yeah, and you feel like you're playing a different game. I don't really know how to describe it. I feel like a lot of the power comes from the fact that with flight and giving all your units flight, you can kind of always dictate where the battle is going to take place. Like, it's wholly within your power to say it's going to be in the enemy's back row, or to say it's going to be in my back row, whichever you think is most beneficial to you in that moment. Which is like no other faction has like that extreme of a movement advantage over the opponent, which is just really fun. And the way the units synergize together is a lot of fun too. So I'm excited to see it.
It works so well thematically that you don't question why these birds are actually pretty darn tanky. Like, why they have so much life in this, why there's so many hit points in this faction. But I think it is a mechanic that's needed to make the faction work, because they're in a flock and, they do need to take some hits.
They're
And
really,
you just
really
somehow
healthy
don't
birds.
notice.
They're really big.
Yeah, you really don't notice.
Yeah.
You don't notice. Yeah, they're big. That's the fantasy reason, is they're big. They're huge.
Yes.
But I think that's also part of what makes them fun to play, is I think as more factions get added, the factions with high life, like the birds, like the mountain Vargath, like those fabled frogs, the ones that have a lot of life, I think, help mitigate against dice RNG and draw RNG. Like when it takes more turns to kill them, you can afford more of a bad roll or a bad turn or, a turn of hand clog. So I think that is also a factor in keeping the Skyspear Avians at really a nice, healthy place in the meta. Like they're solidly A tier. No one considers them overpowered, but they do pretty consistently well in, I think, most every matchup. And I think they're exactly, like for me, they're like the beacon of what the power level should be in this Summoner Wars universe.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a beautifully designed deck, and I feel like I don't know. I feel like for a long time, like they just like weren't a huge part of the discussion on Discord, and I think and some people even just like assuming, yeah, they're probably like B or C tier or something. Nuh-uh. These birds can pack a punch. But let me move on. Just so we can get to the game too. So Savanna Elves, they share a symbol with the birds, the harmony symbol. So they're also about like synergistic interactions between your units. The Savanna Elves, there's nothing bad about this deck. All the units are very powerful. Like the most notable one is the Border Archer, and so since it's so easy to get a boost on the Border Archer, if you with Aboshi's ability to just add a boost once per turn after he moves, they're pretty much 4/4s, which is kind of sort of the best ranged unit in the game, specifically when they're in this deck. In addition to that, you got Rhinos that are just gonna trample everywhere. And lionesses that you can boost to be stronger, spirit mages that'll help you boost. So in general, like it's sort of the first deck that is very happy to just sit back and slowly boost all of its things. Can't really boost quite as quickly as some other boost decks that we've seen. But they will happily sit back and win pretty much any range game with these border archers. And then you come forward, you think you're safe, and they'll chant of entangling lioness with a border archer. So suddenly this lioness can attack twice because it has swift shot. And then what's that? It also has imbued strength from chant of power. So now it is +5 strength. So now you're getting hit for like 16, 15 dice. So you always got to be afraid of that as well. So they have the combo assassination tool. Their units are just very strong overall. Yeah, they're a tough opponent.
I think they're in some ways, one of the most well-rounded decks. They do suffer some from rush decks. Like Wayfarers can get to them when they don't get a chance to get set up. They've been the subject of a lot of balance conversations about how they're kind of tough to nerf because they don't really have
Yeah,
one mechanic to abuse that you can
exactly.
just tone down.
Yeah.
They have a lot of strong units, and I think I remember Vexer saying that if you bring a Boa down to 4 attack, he's fine. I actually haven't played a Bua in any of the Plaidhead Games tournaments when they did that, so I don't have firsthand experience of what that's like. I think I would want it just for the sake of theme. Like it feels like the 5 attack summoners should be the attack summoners. Bua is just kind of the self-defense 5 attack.
Yeah, I like it. I'll go ahead and give them the go ahead, but we can keep chatting before we see the link.
Awesome.
Do. Yeah, and I've often like defended the 5 attack on Abua as like as I've heard it was the deliberate part of the playtesting process that in the master set they wanted every summoner to have a reason to expose itself to engage in the battle except for Retalis, which is a very unique summoner. And so sort of from the get-go they were like, okay, Abua is going to be the one that does it with attack power alone. We're just going to print 5 on Abua and gonna balance the deck around that. But I've heard it said and been convinced. I want to pull up the link here too that
Yep.
that it ends up being it ends up being too strong. You're still camping with Abua, but all that it means is that when you hit the end game, suddenly he can one shot every common you throw at him. And there we go. The game is live. You've been able to pull it
Yep.
up.
I am waiting for it to load. I've gotten spoiled by the app, which loads faster than the website. So this is the same normal loading speed, I think.
Your app loads slower than the website. Interesting. Or it loads faster than the app website. You
No, no,
say.
no. It on my iPhone, yes. Okay, now I have to sign
That's
in.
funny.
All right, Ben, you're gonna drive while I deal
Yeah,
with the
sounds good.
website.
I need to get a new phone because mine is slow, but then my computer like also since they did the recent update has also been slower. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. We need more Joes. We need need a better app. So we're starting out with Savanna Elves doing the opening that once you see it, you can't unsee it of just stacking everything behind that archer. The other option here would be where these units started. We could have stacked all three of them over on this side, but we decided not to. Instead, we're going over here, which maybe, yeah, I would need to think about which one's preferable. I usually prefer this side just because it's more, it's further back, harder for the opponent to get to me if I'm over here. But that being said, I've seen like one of the first times I saw this matchup was seeing Donkey get defeated as the Savanna Elves by the Skyspear Avians because he wasn't expecting such a push from them. The Abua really doesn't. Abua has is really good at dice and whatnot. But when it comes to post move phase movements, there's really only one that is the cat. So if you trap him, which the birds are incredibly good at doing, just flying over units, he's screwed. So that's one easy way that this game could be won. If Devlinfish just manages to trap a Bua. Let me get the audio to work here correctly. And we'll see some sort of response. I feel like what I often struggle with the most as Ava is which playstyle are you gonna do? Are you gonna sit back and just sit back and just like make the opponent come to you because you that's totally within your power. Like we could just take a single shot here. We can just like sit in our back row and say, hey, Abua has to come to us. Um, or we could slowly start to plan in advance and uh I mean Abua could all Ava could always just go three spaces forward and place a gate. Like that's always an option. It feels like a bait often. When I do it, and I often try to land somewhere in between where it's like you try to like force the opponent to come into the midboard at least a little bit, and then when they're not expecting it, suddenly you fly units over their head, and they're suddenly in a really awkward position, if not just dead. But knowing since you all the cards are in your hand, the decision then becomes, well, when do I go forward as the Avians, and it's not so easy to know.
No, I think that is the crux of the avian decision is that you have to move in a flock. Is
Yeah.
that you don't just send units forward just because you can and then leave them out there to die. Especially against a faction like Savanna Elves that really wants to take their time and fatten up those lionesses and, get boosts on Abua and everyone else. So this is kind of the classic early game where we're gonna trade range shots until someone has to make their move.
Yeah, and it's tough to see like I like who would win the fight if it was a border archer versus a steward every time, who would end up winning? I think the steward would win that trade eventually, but I
I
don't
don't
really
think
know.
it's clear enough
Yeah,
though. Like you can't it's whoever wins the trade at the time
that's
the opponent now has to do something. So regardless of what the dice odds are, it's who won the trade today. And
yeah,
now what do you do?
yeah, because it's very tight. And do you think like whoever starts to lose the range trades eventually is the person that needs to come up and advance or like what
I
how
think
do you say yeah.
there's a lot else going on because you're sculpting your hands as you're doing these ranged trades. So I think
Mm.
there's a lot of pieces to a lot of pieces to the puzzle that determine when you actually move up, if you actually move up, if you just keep range trading until the end of time.
Yeah, and you're right. Both factions have those like sort of combo hands you're looking for. Like Ava wants Battle Song and Sky Assault, while Abua wants entangling enchanted power. And yeah, but you don't just want those. You want to also be able to use it. So you have to predict when you're gonna, or around when you're actually gonna have the combo to have the right board state ready to use it.
Exactly. There's enough going on that it's not a simple of matter of like whoever draws their combo first wins.
Yes.
You have to have, like you said, you have to have the pieces on the board to use it on, and the position to use it. And I think Scott, if I had to guess, not based on this particular board state, but based on the matchup in general, is like eventually Avians end up on the other side of the board because they somehow always do.
Yes. Uh, we shall see. Yeah, and it's interesting what the different combos accomplish too, because like Avis is like the enemy really needs to expose themselves in some way for like for Ava to use her combo, which is where she really wants it, which is on the enemy summoner. But a lot of times you won't get that chance, so maybe you're just killing a lioness with that combo or something. And the same with Abua, honestly. Ava is very good at defending herself. She's not really gonna be letting a 7 attack Rhino just charge up to her. So
And
like
and Abu is interesting in terms of his place among the new factions, in that I feel like Abu is old school almost in the way that he can't steal spots.
yes,
Like
exactly.
where his units are basically, at the end of the move phase are where they're going to be.
Exactly, exactly.
And I don't know. I don't want to say it makes him retro, although I guess it does. But with all the new decks and all the shenanigans of move and then move a blocker in the way, even something like breakers, that was their hallmark, is I can attack and then push a deceiver in front of me. Abua has none of that, and what he instead has is basically pretty beefy units and well statted units, but he doesn't have hit and run shenanigans, and he can't steal your spots. So where he is on the board after the move phase is where he is, except for MIDI Kairu, which doesn't see play every game.
Yeah, and that's like a quote unquote weakness of Abua, or just like a general weakness of the faction that like it isn't evident until way after the master set when we see, oh, like like pretty much every faction that comes out has some like sort of Vine Mancer or something that will allow you to steal spots in some weird way. Just some sort of movement post attack phase is pretty common, for to at least have a token tool to that effect, for decks printed these days.
Right. And with avians, I mean, this is true too, but you don't really feel it as much. Or mostly true. Guilford, it's not like well, I mean, Guilford is still a move phase ability, but the bully ability definitely reconfigures the board. And, divers can also create some holes and some surprises if there's a 1 life blocker.
And gathering song as well. Like you kill a
Yeah.
spot and then plop a unit
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah. But they don't hit and run either.
uh-huh,
They do
uh-huh.
movement tricks. I mean, their whole theme is movement, but they also don't steal your spots. So they're both straightforward in that way, in that, you're for the most part, except for one champion, which is easier to keep track of mentally than 4 commons, for the most part, after the movement phase, is where your units are going to end up, except Gathering Song. So I'm kind of lying.
Yeah. So we saw play for a minute there. Wait, interesting. So that spirit mage was summoned. So were they
Yeah,
just
we're
gonna
doing
take
that thing.
inactivity damage? That other play that they had? They must have been. That's really funny. Yeah, I see why they're moving back, because just sending this. Oh, it's Chant of Weaving. Yes, that little thing in the top right corner makes some sense. Yeah, we can get a token attack with the Spirit Mage. I would much rather like the previous move of sending the Lionesses 2 spaces to our right. Like you're just sort of asking for that to get shot. The Lionesses always feel like a burden, honestly. Like, which
Yes.
is what, because it's just like, well, I want to play this ranged game, but then I need to like advance. Like I don't just want to send a 7 health Lioness with no backup. Like you got to support it somehow. So I don't know. I would probably stack the Lioness behind the Spirit Mage, like with some hope of the Lioness moving forward later. Or yeah, or at least where it is, or even a space back. So like if the opponent is gonna hit it, at least they really need to come forward. Because right now it's still just pretty free for Ava to just take a shot at take a shot at
I have nothing to add.
it.
That
Linus,
hits the nail on the head of what, but I mean, again, that's part of why, why any of these S tier factions aren't like insta win. Like Lioness maintenance is basically built into a Boer's game. Like, how do I keep the Lioness? If you keep the Lioness in the back row, then you're investing resources into something that's not doing any good right now.
yeah.
And if you leave the Linus open to take a hit, then it could
All right, I
die.
like this. Nope.
Oh, yes.
Suddenly I like this turn. And if that Linus had just gone two spaces backwards, it'd be a perfect turn. No. I
Oh,
joke, and yet.
I applaud. I mean, we're both applauding the self-kill, obviously. But this leaves Avians with kind of a what do with a really annoying board state.
Yeah, what do you kill? But unfortunately, that lioness is still an easy target. Though I suppose that something I don't consider as much is that it's not easy to get the positions that you want with Ava. Like there really isn't a easy way to get a worthy attack on this lioness, because if you want to move a steward forward, well then Ava needs to be adjacent, which means another unit needs to be in front of Ava. So that's just like not worth it. So maybe I was wrong to criticize this, because like what like the most you're gonna get on this lioness is really like 2 or 3 range dice, or you send a sentinel forward, but like that kind of feels that feels bad. You never want to send a single melee unit forward to get
I feel
attacked
like
on two
that's a
sides.
trap with Skyspear Avians. Like that's
Mm,
one of those sort of easy, like I don't want to say beginner play, but it's one of those things that you do when you're learning the faction, and
yeah,
then realize that any of these birds without support do die pretty easily.
yeah, and
Like these 4 life
yeah.
units are not tanks; they're too expensive to be tanks.
Exactly, and then that's like a similar trap with Abua, honestly, or any deck that has such highly costed units. Like neither of these decks have a 0 cost. Abua is one of few decks that has 3 2 costs and a 1 cost common. And Ava has 2 2 costs and 2 1 costs. And it really shows when you play the faction. Like you really feel that struggle for magic, like just knowing going into next turn. If you have no magic, you're not summoning anything. So that's like absolutely unacceptable. But even 2 magic is only enough for 1 unit, and if your opponent's gonna wipe your board, like that might really set you behind. So you're really you're really struggling to keep ahead on magic. So that the good units do have that downside.
I think that's what also makes this matchup feel pretty classic, is that I think the ones like, cave goblins where life is cheap,
Yeah,
they can be kind of swinging and go either way, but in 2 decks where so many units are so precious to lose and are likely to hit to take 2 units to kill, or we can
yep.
yep. I was gonna say, like, that's ballsy if you don't have a gate. I was
uh
assuming you had a gate.
yep, and we will be
This
taking the
is
fight
the
to
classic
Abua.
firing line.
Yeah, is this a play you feel like you see often? The gate blocking
Yeah.
Ava's front?
I see it, and I also see it misused slash overused. I think it's tempting to string Ava out too far and then block with an airy gate, and then the airy gate gets one-shotted, and well, now what do you
Yeah.
do?
Well, because
But this opening where a 5 life gate on your side with Ava behind it supporting a steward is pretty classic.
yeah, and I'm always like I'm wary of forward gates because I know my opponent can use them for cover. Like I never, and because Ava has such a strong ranged game, I want to be careful of just like putting a gate willy-nilly, because then the opponent's just like, oh cool, I'll just walk up to that. Well, you can't shoot me from your back row. So always need to think about this. um, which is why it feels to me like a forward gate is some sort of declaration of like I'm gonna take the fight to you at some point. Like I'm not committed to winning a ranged game, because like this very essential row I can no longer keep with a range. Though maybe I don't know. It's complicated because what's the worst they do? Break your gate.
The worst they do is what's happening right now, which is now there's a lioness camped there. That's the other classic thing I think Savanna Elves loves to do. And maybe the reason that I think of it as classic is because of that turn one thing you can do against vanguards of like Abua goes first, plants a lioness in front of that gate, and the
Yeah,
lioness is at like 7 health in another turn or two.
yeah. Okay,
But yeah, lioness planted in front of gate is one of those like signature things that you you know you're gonna see it, but you kind of hate it.
Okay, so this would be very funny if they go with this play, because it opens up a play where you spawn a unit to either side of this gate, and those two units and Ava, all three, just go 3 spaces forward to fully occupy the enemy gate. Yep, they're taking it back. Which, of course, if they did that, you wouldn't be able to kill the lioness, so it might chant of power and like do 8 to 8. I don't know. It'd be a very, but it'd be tempting because if you fully occupy your enemy's gates, especially with like a Bua, you could just win. Though maybe they have a gate as well. We shall see.
No, I think both those things we've described of gate in front of Ava and lioness camping on gate are kind of very common things to see, but they both have downsides. So I mean, you just talked through the downsides of Ava in front of gate, which is gate in front of Ava, which okay, Ava's protected, gate's a forward summoning spot, but it's so easy to camp there.
Yeah.
And this sort of lioness in front of gate is, I would say number one, you don't want that 3 health lioness to die. And number two, you can take down the gate, but I think lioness doesn't get momentum from a gate, or it doesn't get
That's
that life thing from a gate, right?
that's right. It's possible
Yeah.
they've forgotten that, or maybe that lioness is just sacrificial, and we're saving our boost for something better.
Oof. Sometimes you do that with a lioness, though. I hate that.
Just what?
I
Just
think
send
if
it to
any,
die.
no, just send an early lioness to instead of pumping it up to become a mini champ. It's just gonna die and buy you time.
Yeah,
I,
it's
I do
interesting.
I
Yeah,
see it a lot. I've had it used very effectively against me. I think I get super precious about lioness life and you know second guess myself to death about sending out kind of like a half-assed lioness basically.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I feel like one of the first things I heard on the Discord was like Donkey and or others saying that like what when they first started playing, they were like all about the lionesses and they were really nice. But then later on, they started to feel like actually the rhinos are the star of the show, and that the rhinos, like if you have 5 boosts on them, moving 7 spaces, you can get a lot of extra damage out of that. Like even 2 or 3 extra damage just like goes a super long way. And that maybe that's even more worth it than the lionesses, which is interesting. And
I have no ability to fathom what it must have been like to be around when people were still discovering Savannah elves. Like to me, they've just always been around, and the strategies have kind of always been known. There's always been a conventional wisdom around Savannah elves. Like I
yeah,
don't. It's hard for me to fathom the universe where Donkey was writing that strategy, and Donkey was experimenting, and the book was being written on the Discord.
yes, back in the days where Kalal was bad,
Oh
basically.
man, there were days when Kalal was bad.
I
I do kind of remember that. I do kind of remember people were saying keep Guldoon, pitch the other two.
yeah, I mean, I feel like that's always like I think I have a distinct memory of like SIP saying like that they really enjoy the breakers, and they love getting Kalal out, but like it's because and I remember the message like because she is like everything breakers do and more, but that it's hard to, it doesn't happen very often. I remember being like, oh haha, silly SIP, like being the one person that plays Kalal.
That's fascinating. I don't really remember a universe where Kalal was bad. I do sort of remember when Gul'dun was considered better.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, to what you were saying about rhinos possibly being better than lionesses, I think that's a hallmark to the versatility of the faction, because I'm going to have my cake and eat it too and say it depends on the faction you're facing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now we're starting to see the melee battle.
I'm just disappointed Ava's not flying 3 spaces forward, but whatever. Whatever. Yeah, Sentinels do counter the rhinos, an interaction I will pretty much always forget about.
I don't know that I've given it thought until right this minute, but you're right. That says something about about me. All right.
You just never really think it because Sentinel. It's just easy to forget Sentinel's ability. Well, yeah, that'll definitely kill it.
Okay, so you tell me, was that a sacrificial Linus, or is, to buy time, or is Beast going, oh shit, right now?
Beast just messaged in our chat, gonna need some more misses from you, Dev, so perhaps the latter. Um, but
And we'll find out after what his early draw was. Like, I have a feeling that's relevant. Like, where's your archers, dude?
yeah, yeah. We shall see that the Sentinel's
we're in
exposed.
melee mode, though.
Yeah.
We're not, like he could summon an archer and take pot shots at the steward, but it feels almost irrelevant with the battle on the left side of the field.
Yeah.
Probably Beast is like, and now I drew all my archers.
Yeah, a good Savanna Elves hand could do a lot of work. Like if you get another really big lioness in front of that gate, you even like Chant of Entangling, kill the Sentinel, Archer kills the Sage behind it. Like if you have the right hand, you could do some work here. But of course, need to get that hand.
He's had time to sculpt it, but if they're buried in the draw pile, they're buried in the draw pile.
Yeah. There's another lioness. There's that weaving. Okay, so we've got some sort of turn going on here. All right.
There's that rhino that can't trample that you were just talking about.
Yep, I like it. I like it. Yeah, this seems a little bit rough. Not gonna be throwing too many dice with this. Really wish we had an archer to just be able to attack a little bit more at a range. And just like Abua is just like terrified right now. Like this game could be over in like 5 minutes. Like if we just go and steal these 2 gate spots, like and they don't have another gate, that could be game.
I mean, we're assuming no archers, no gate.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no universe, obviously, where he would have had a gate and hung on to it.
Entangling. Interesting. I wonder where that's going.
It's going to a brilliant move where we try to trample and go, oh crap.
That I mean, if I was playing, that's where it would be going for sure. All right, bringing out Abua, and that's sometimes what you got to do if you're feeling a little behind on board. Let's start putting those 5 dice to work, and hope that Ava can't kill you next turn.
Well, Abua's...
Yeah, I don't know. Are we taking down the gate? Not sure. Not sure the plan here.
Neither's Beast.
Yeah. Yeah, look, Linus is just hard because it feels like you're just pouring so many resources into them for them to be good, especially in a situation like here where you're behind. I feel like I really want to play units that start with high health.
Yes. I mean, that, again, that's kind of the tension is that Abua needs to invest in things that don't have an immediate payoff.
Yeah. All right, and that rhino claiming that spot now. Now the spot to the right side of the gate we at least can't occupy immediately, though Could occupy something right in front of the Sentinel. That's unfortunate. Not what we wanted to see. And a hit. And we even killed it. That's crazy. But yeah, I really feel like Ava's in a great spot to just like, if you can start stealing Abua's gates, it's game over.
I'm still wrapping my head around that Rhino kill. Like, explain, like,
the Rhino on the Steward.
Sorry, no, what? You know what? Yes. What I was trying to say is my brain is like 3 attacks back, but
Yes,
that took
yes.
so many words to try and express a not very interesting thought
Yes,
and
yes.
get it wrong that we can just move on.
I'm right there with you. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we draw those archers and we're chilling.
But where does Abua want to be right now? Like, just in a vacuum of what you're summoning, is Abua trying to swing? Is Abua trying to fight on the left or escape to the right? And can he escape?
I feel like if we occupy this forward gate and have border archers, we can hold this line. Like border archers on either side could hold this. I mean, granted, we only have 2 magics. That's a little bit rough, but ooh, the Gathering Song could be brutal. Come on, Ava, go 3 spaces forward. You know you want to. It's a little bit hard to get to this lioness because like the Sentinel is our best answer. Okay, yeah, we're doing it. Come on, Ava. You know where you want to go. No. Get that gate.
We have. Do we have Sky Salt?
See you, Shidenkai. Thanks for stopping by. Oh yeah, no. Oh, I see. See, this is why they don't pay me to play Avians. There's just a potential kill right there. Though maybe back at Ava if things don't go well, but see how well they go. 5? That could be game. That could be game. That's looking like game. Wow, the odds of this to kill were pretty low. I don't know what they were, but surely it was below 20%.
Oh!
All right, time to.
What the hell is one life Abua gonna do now?
One shot Ava. For all the good it'll do her. Is there any hand that would surely some combination of cards could get you?
Wait. Did he use both Chant of Leavings?
Yes.
I think he did.
But only one
That's
entangling.
kind of the card. That's kind of the card that could have kind of saved his ass. I guess if he has a gate, he can kind of wall off.
Yeah, this lioness is out of range of Chant of Entangling, so that does probably nip that in the bud.
There's so many ways to get a pot shot on one life Abua.
Especially, yeah.
Especially if you're not summoning units. What do you do? Okay, two gates.
It's gonna be a little bit rough.
What are you doing, Abua? What are you doing?
But I mean, even though it's looked like Avians have been ahead this whole time, all it takes now is just for Abua to survive and, I don't know, try to compete on board, and we might be able to take it back. Like, every time an enemy summoner throws all the damage onto your summoner except for one, it's like that's just a whole turn gone, not working on board presence. So suddenly Abua has a chance at the board, at least. Are we just going to throw 6?
Hey, have double chance
melee?
of power. Come on.
That's not a thing. You made me think for a second. You made me think. Even before the rule where you couldn't have two active events, Chant of Power is not an active event. Never mind, this game's weird. But a unit can't have the same ability twice.
No, put a Bua in a cage with 2 gates on either side.
Like that would work.
That would
I
actually
mean,
work. Oh my god, please.
I feel like you lose that game.
Is that the only like way to save a Bua right now?
I mean, even if we have one gate on that side, like, do we have an easy way? Yeah, just a diver. You're right. It's looking rough. I agree. I agree. Oof, and that sucks not to throw those dice at Ava, because at the very least, if those dice were at Ava, now we got to fret. Point where I feel like maybe I would have just thrown the bit to Ava, because if Ava needs to be afraid of Chant of Power, like a second Chant of Power kill, then maybe she's got to retreat or something.
The fact that he threw them at the steward instead of Ava, I am hoping means he's oof, but there's no he's just hoping for not a diver and maybe
that is yes, that is
I'm
is
trying
it.
to decide whether to read something into the attack on the steward or just I'm screwed.
Yeah, screwed. There it is. Tough to come back from that. And you can probably summon a unit behind that. No. Yeah. Well, the
He's
diver's
dead.
send it. Yeah.
Then he's dead.
Could always miss. Could always miss. Wouldn't worry about it. Could always miss. Yeah, and with the Sage, that's 3 melee. Could always miss. Could always miss. Always, always got to maintain hope until the end.
I've gotten 0 for 3 melees before we all have. I don't believe I've ever gotten this kind of 0 for 3 melee when it actually matters.
Yeah.
Oh man, I wanted to see a Bua in a cage. That would have actually been a game. 2 gates.
Hey, if this diver misses, Abua might win.
We're reaching.
if we miss all 4 melee.
All 4. We're reaching to make it exciting.
No, trust me, there's still a chance, guys. Good game.
Good game.
Nice and quick. Well, we did technically pass the half an hour mark, so you think we should just invite him in here?
Yeah, I think we should. I think we accept this as a short one.
All right. Well, give us a second while we invite them into our chat. Hello, hello.
Hello. What's good, guys? What's good?
How's it going? What a game.
Actually, who's who? Who do we have here?
This is Beast. Hey, Fuzzy.
Hey. All right, I'm getting all your messages from during the game all at once. They're all flashing before my eyes.
That was fun. That was good.
Winning feels good, doesn't it?
Now Devlin can't use that excuse against me. Yeah. I think you're deafened, Dev. And you're also on mute.
You're close. There's an unmute button in the bottom left there. But before we get started and chat about the game, I love to just have the contestants briefly the players briefly introduce. This is actually this is a recruitment for the elite Summoner Wars. Okay. Oh, hello, Devlinfish, are you there? Oh, still. Sorry, say that again.
There you go. We hear it.
Well, it's good to hear from you. Glad you got everything figured out. What I love to do, but before we start talking about the game, is just have both of you introduce yourselves. So maybe BeastSlumbers, we can start with you. How did you first get started with Summoner Wars?
Well, I've been on the stream a couple of times and I've done the spiel. I go way back with the Summoner Wars. I was a wee lad. It was first edition. The summer of 1905, the world was at war. We all fondly remember. Yeah, it was first edition, and I believe my introduction was Phoenix Elves versus Tundra Orcs. Same two factions that we got now as second edition, and it was a different country too that I was in. Summoner Wars was my entry point to board games. Actually, I think I have that right. My brother came back home from Minnesota, and he bought Summoner Wars from over here to back home in my old country, the Philippines. And that was I believe from then on I was just playing all sorts of games. I discovered Agricola, I discovered Terraforming Mars, I discovered, what have you, Euro games, Ameritrash games, and then from there, um, yeah, from there I just transitioned on to stalking Summoner Wars. I didn't get to actively play, so I've been lurking. I've been lurking for the longest time. I know. I told Ben one time that I came on stream. I know the local mythology before I even started playing. I know the prophets. I know the Uncle Europes of old, and I think I remember Clarissimus from first edition as well. Um, yeah,
That
so I've
sounds
been I've
right.
been
Yeah.
yeah I've been following the local lore for quite some time. I'm a student of the game, so if I'm not actively playing, I'm watching games, uh, and recently I'm play testing, so that one's fun.
Nice.
Yeah, and so yeah, really just uh, been stalking the game. Only started playing, I think it was Crimson Order and Mountain Vargath release that I thought, oh, there's something here. I saw Baron Daemar and I thought, that's cool. Like, holy shit, Summoners is going this way. Like, they're really making new things that I didn't see before in first edition. I guess I missed Mad Syrian, but he's kind of Baron Daemar light. Anyway, that's my spiel.
That's kind of awesome to hear about someone else's experience stalking the game. Like, I've always felt slightly ridiculous for how long I stalked it before jumping in.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of characters in the Discord stalk the game. We got a lot of these people in Introduce Yourself channel. I think they stalk the game as much as we do, Fuzzy. Yeah. So
I just know, like, for first edition, I really never played it beyond a few games against the AI on the app. Yet I somehow
yeah,
knew who like Water D and Killer Cactus were,
yeah,
and
that's
like
right.
got
That's
sucked
right.
into the drama.
Yeah.
Like, why on earth did do I have it in my memory banks? Just like all this first edition lore as well as the first edition characters without actually having played the game
And I
until
think
second edition.
they played on a different platform too. I think it was Vassal or something. They played somewhere else. The website didn't exist. I don't think they ever had a web app. They were playing somewhere. I don't know, but
Well, the truth is, I kept coming close to kind of biting the bullet, either buying the physical game or playing on the app. But someone would post in the forums something about, how basically, the meta was poisonous on the app. No one ever attacked. And,
that's
I
the
think
way to put it.
I think Waterdy like maybe kept me from ever taking the plunge on first edition because, I'd almost do it and then read a post and he'd point out some fatal flaw.
Yeah, the height of his
And
notoriety. Yeah.
yeah, but then he was the one who also got me into second edition when I read his Board Game Geek review of like they fixed everything in first edition. And, that
Oh.
was when finally like okay, it got this like really long, detailed, glorious Waterdeep review on Board Game Geek, and I was like, okay, if this guy says they fixed everything from first edition, then I'm in.
Well, but before we continue, I'd love to have Devlinfish. Do you mind introducing yourself and how you got started playing Summoner Wars?
Yeah, of course. So I'm over in the UK. So other side, which can be quite funny when myself, Beast, and Worth, we play in a team, and we're playing in the Chibata team tournament, and so
That's right.
we'll wake up in the morning with the different time zones, and we're like, 52 messages.
Yes.
But yeah, I started playing back end of November, I think it was. Was it right at the end of, oh no, it might be in the start of November, whenever the November tournament was. That was pretty much like roughly when I started playing, and that was my first foray, and I just kind of entered that tournament thinking, well, we'll just kind of see what happens and see how it goes. And then everyone was I remember I just got on the Discord and everyone was talking about this group of death, and I was like, oh, sucks to be those guys. And then had a quick look, and there I was in this group of death.
Little did you know.
Everyone was, but like everyone was going Aaron, Sip, and I didn't have any idea who these people were. And then so of course I was like, right, this is going to be rough. But yeah, I first got into Summoner Wars because me and my girlfriend, we recently got into, like about a year and a half ago, started getting into the hobby of board games, and my girlfriend, we got quite a lot of Euro games, like Agricola, and play a lot of Duel. But my girlfriend can't stand points wins. She finds it cheap. So so we were looking for a game which was just win or lose, like, head to head. We came across Summoner Wars. We saw a couple of reviews, and so we just kind of bought the master set and thought we'd give it a go. And then we both got really into it, and I got hooked, and I thought I'd go online, and that's not really my girlfriend's theme. So she was like, "Yep, fill your boots, you go for it." And I've just kind of got lost in it ever since. Like I didn't realize there were so many factions even when I went online, and I was like, right, let's try and start learning these things. And I just remember the early days just getting beaten in ways I didn't even know was possible, and it was really funny. It was just like, so yeah, and then that was me really, and I put in I actually got through the group of death in my first tournament, which was quite something.
That's right. Yeah.
And I didn't get whitewashed in the second round, so that was successful. And then and I've been playing a lot, and I just love how difficult the game is, and learning and getting beaten and going back and reviewing. And I think the community's been a big reason why I've hung around, and got really into it as well. I know that Fuzzy's talked about kind of the analogy of it can be a bit awkward, like it's somebody's dinner party and you've come along. Well, maybe I just don't have very good manners. I think I just sat at the table and put my feet on. What are we eating, guys? And off I went. So
that's the idea. I don't know how to put a better sign on the door. Just like, have a seat. Pull up a seat, make yourself at home. But I mean, obviously it gets like that if we're all talking about this group of death and everyone knows who everyone is, and it's just like, okay, hi, I guess. Yeah.
And then I found League, and that's where I met Beast. I remember, I think it was my first league it was the Mountain Vargath and Skyspear Avians matchup, and Beast reached out and asked if I wanted to do if I want to do practice games, and that was it. Away from there, and just to back up what he said about being a student of the game, it's really funny. Like if I go, got this tricky matchup coming up, and he'd go, Swamp Hawks versus High Elves. I remember a game 3 tournaments back. And finds a link, sends it over. It's just like all catalogued. It's really funny. But I've learned so much from Beast. It's been really interesting having somebody to bounce ideas off. It's made such a difference to my game, I think. So
yeah, for sure, yeah.
So how did Worf end up on your team?
I'll leave that to Deb. I think he teamed up with her first.
I did, yeah. So me and Worf started chatting after I think we got drawn in a tournament. It might have been one of the Turtle Surprise ones, maybe. No, not the Turtle Surprise.
Turtle Panic,
the one before. And I remember chatting I think it must have been about February where I started chatting to Worf, and we just got chatting, and we were both fairly new to the game and just talking about strategy and playing some practice league games together quite a lot. And so then when the team tournament one came up, I thought, well, I was chatting to Worf about starting a team, and I thought, well, the only other person I chat to on the regular is Beast, so I asked Beast, and and then we got together and we've been doing all right. So I think we're through the final. So, yeah.
Fantastic player, Worf. Yeah, she's good. She's
Well, we're
very
really good. Like I've learned so much Obsidian dwarfs. Like I'm gonna dip my toe in after watching her play them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Watch her vehemently deny the allegation of being a good player, though.
Oh, she won't have it. I know, but yeah.
Yeah. She's
Okay,
I get that.
this is my interjection. It drives me insane the amount of imposter syndrome among the female players on this Discord. Trust me, I have a front row seat in this. I have a theory too. It's a really simple one. It's probably 10 words or less. It's men blame the dice, women blame themselves.
Oh. Well, I'll tell you this, Fuzzy. You're actually going to be the reason I'm going to take a break from next league. Because you beat Lena, and I have to advance to Div 1. I'm taking a break because of you.
Yeah. Fuzzy, I was laughing. I don't remember, Fuzzy, do you remember when you sent me a message at one point saying, oh yeah, Beast owes me one because I just beat Lena? And I was laughing because I was like, he is not going to think he owes you one for that. So.
Oh God, no! I want to see Beast in D1.
I want to see
come
Beast
on.
in D1 as well.
I would love to. I think we reached Astro Cosmos pointed out a good point about breaks are very important for this game, and I think I'm at that point where I'm discovering a different kind of fun with playtesting. Really, testing new factions is. I think the draw for Summoner Wars for me is actually not the strategy of it or the masterfulness of your play, but rather the diversity of factions. I can't sit with one thing for too long. I know I can be good at it, but I just playtesting is a new fun for me. Anyway, all that
is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. And can I just say this? You are not taking a break. You are pulling a Ben.
Uh-oh.
You are pulling a Ben in taking a break from League on the gates of D1.
That might have happened. It's possible. It's possible I noped out of that. I will not confirm nor deny.
Ben's ripped me open a new one a couple times on stream, so I can see it.
No, it's fair. And I mean, I think it's part of the conversations that we've definitely had, like, on the Discord. And I think it's ultimately healthy, is that, just kind of like, it's a game, it's fun. We love strats. We love we love talking about strats. We love the community, but at the end of the day, it's just a game, and people have definitely taken breaks at different times in different ways and just kind of said, like, I don't need the stress of being a top player. It's okay. It's okay to walk away from being number one. And, we've had these conversations with Vexer too, in one form or another, that, and it's great that I think there's all these different avenues to enjoy the game. And I think, the streaming is one of them, obviously, for, I think for all three of us, me, Ben, and Vexer, is just, it's a way to share out game knowledge and hopefully, hopefully bring new people in.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know if Ben told you, Fuzzy, the stream is actually one of the reasons why I got into the game too. Because I was stalking second edition, and I was looking it up on YouTube, trying to see if there were any games. Before I even discovered that there was a web app, I wanted to see if there were any pro games that I could review on YouTube. And lo and behold, I saw the Summoner Scuffles.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Which you guys do bring in people.
I mean, it means a lot to hear that. It's like, you don't, like, I think for me, if the Scuffle, when the Scuffles reasonably have, like a half dozen live viewers or whatever, and, it feels much more like that image I sent to the Discord of, like, a bunch of, like, basically, like, in some street corner in Beijing, two old men playing Chinese chess and, like, this crowd of onlookers, a half dozen onlookers, just kind of, like, nudging each other and commenting on the game or watching in silence. Like,
that sounds right.
That's how I feel about streaming. I don't, I've never dreamed of being a YouTube influencer. Like, that's pretty far down my list of anything I would ever want. But, just kind of hanging out in even a virtual setting with people that are as ridiculous and obsessive about this game as many of us are, it doesn't feel like your stereotype of Twitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I was at the other end of the spectrum, Fuzzy, where I had to confess to you that I hadn't watched a Scuffle yet. so, I got really guilty, and now I've watched about 8 of them since I told you that. So yeah, I've all in one big bin.
It is not a prerequisite, and I'm saying this to the universe, it is not a prerequisite to have watched any of these streams or even to know or care who we are before appearing on one. It's really just, whatever's fun. There's really, it's hard to get newer players to appear on the Scuffle, and I get that. Like, it's pressure. It's like, I don't want to play badly and have it enshrined forever. But the goal of these, I mean, Beast is enshrined. Beast is enshrined forever as the loser. What are you gonna do? Like, you just have the golden L trophy. But I mean, no, but I mean seriously.
Yeah.
But
sorry, Fuzzy. We were talking about ways to even out the skill level in the.
Now you can never use the excuse against me, Dev.
Yeah.
I'll have none of it. Thank you.
No, I think, what? I'm going to jump to a different question. Is what happened? So, sorry, Dev, I already forgot wife or girlfriend, but what happened to girlfriend? Yeah. So what happened to, and this comes up too, is what happens to the partner at home when one person starts playing online?
Well, it's interesting. So she knows that I play quite a lot now, and so whenever we sit down to play, she's always like, "Oh, this is going to be an unfair advantage," etc. But you know what? She still beats me. She plays a really mean Pole Dwarfs game, and she's really good with cave goblins, and I hate playing the cave goblins. So she's quite happy for me to just crack on and do my thing. She knows that it's not her scene, just doing the whole online. She just really likes physical gaming and being in person. That's what she enjoys, like the tactility of it all. I think so. So she's quite happy for me to just kind of, but that's why I tend not to play 45-minute timer games, because I don't really want to 3-day games. I can just make some moves, switch off, or if I happen to have a bit of free time, I can try and get some turns in and kind of work around it that way. And I think that's what's really good for me about Summoner Wars, is that I've got that variability on kind of having 3-day or 14-day timers. I think that really helps for me.
Oh, absolutely. The funny thing is I've gravitated from the 3-day timer games feeling kind of free, just, the stereotypical, if I was going to the bathroom anyway, I can squeeze in a turn. And, and that, it's like the emoji. I think people use that toilet emoji to talk about bathroom turns. But, so it goes from it for me, it definitely went from feeling like free time, I can game for free without it really affecting my day, to getting sucked into, league drama and just, taking half-hour turns because I really wanted to win.
Yeah.
To you realizing that wasn't really healthy either. And to this where it's just consolidated time. It's my husband is actually much happier to just let me have 2 hours to stream than to just have me distracted by my phone throughout the day.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I mean, I think we've definitely had people go, acknowledge that too, which ultimately I think is good for the community to actually. On the one hand, it sort of feels like a room of alcoholics trying to be like the support group and, inadvertently urging each other to drink.
That's what the 45-minute queue is for.
It's fine. Start the game. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we've gone back and forth on, then people have different answers, like what's better, the 3-day queue or the, 3 days, 14 days, 45 minutes. And I like the fact that there's different ways to play this game depending on, all these schedules and pre-existing commitments, and and like you said, Beast, how do I enjoy this game? Do I want to be the guy at the top, or do I want to jump into playtesting?
Absolutely, and I think that's a very good segue into the academy that Eden and Chewy and
Woohoo!
Devlin are spearheading.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, personally, I think anyone that takes this game seriously, given enough time, 3 days, 14 days, probably not 45 minutes, anyone given time, I think, could be a very good player. Given time to hesitate and second guess yourself and look for a different answer, it really does wonders for how you play the game, really. And I think that's the only way I approach it. Is there another answer? Some people don't have the time for that. Some people are fine with the first thing that comes up in their heads, but to the newbies that watch this game, don't do as I did, do as I say. But take your time, and if you take your time, really anyone can give these so-called top players a run for their money. I think so.
I think that's my mindset too, is really, like as a parent, like you focus on, growth mindset. Like don't worry about whether you're inherently skilled at this game, or,
Right.
It's just a matter of, if you want to get good, you will get good.
Right.
And there are, but not everyone is going to get good just by like sitting in their room in front of a YouTube channel. Like I do think the social component
Not
of
true.
it was
Watch the
important
YouTube
for me.
channel.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sit in your room, don't socialize, don't have a life in the real world. Just park your butt in front of a computer and watch us on YouTube. No, seriously though. I mean, I think, back to what you guys were saying about the three of you, teaming up for League.
Oh yeah.
That's been kind of the difference maker for me. Like I don't think I would have stuck at it if it was just a matter of essentially playing strangers online. They don't have to be
Honestly,
my best friends, but
yeah.
I do have to, care enough that
Yeah.
opponents are real people.
Yeah. Props to Chabata for setting up the tournament. Honestly, the team format has been the most fun that I've had with the game.
It's been
Devlin
great.
and Worf and I just trade memes all day. That's all we do. That's all we do. We agonize over moves and then we meme at each other. And that's the game.
I'll ignore Worth's and Beast's kind of polite suggestions of a different play, and I'll be like, "Yeah, thanks, but I'm gonna take this low percentage shot."
Yep. And wins off the back of that.
But I kind of, we've often said, like, I wonder what other people's team chats are like, whether or not it's lots and lots of sharing and kind of giving suggestions, or just letting people be a sounding board, and if they're as active as ours are. Because I don't know, for me it's been great fun. I wasn't sure what to expect, and it's just surpassed my expectations of what the team tournament was going to be like. It's great.
Yeah.
I really do think there is a chemistry element to finding your team, like the people that you can just kind of chat on and on about forever, and like have the same sense of humor about memes.
Uh, I think we were pretty unapologetic about it. We just kind of went all firebrand into it and just memed our way into chemistry, honestly. We didn't negotiate. There were no icebreakers, no nothing. We went straight to it. So I have to wonder what the other teams are like. How agonizing, how much agonizing they spend over turns and whatnot.
We go back and forth. I think it's been a little bit of like sometimes it's just like I need to finish and I just need to take my turns, and then other times it's been like send a screenshot and discuss interminably.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's funny because there's two different sets of experiences for me. One is the team game we're playing now, where basically Shampoo has been bugging me for ages to, where's your girls team? Where's your all girls team? And like the first time it was like they're all on other teams. And I think maybe the second time it was like, well, you guys got Werf already. And then finally, no. This was the season though. It's just like, okay, this was the first time we're gonna do the women's channel team, and that was like Astro, and then it was like, okay, well, who's our third? And Astro kind of dragged in his sister Starfire, who's just like much less hardcore than any of us.
Hey.
And so there's been a little bit of that dynamic too, of just I mean, not so much, she's not new, but like this is probably the first time she's agonized over turns the way we do routinely. So there's a little bit of the mentor dynamic as well, and
that would be fun. Yeah, the mentor dynamic. There you go.
Yeah, but I will say this though. Like my original like league team, that the people that I originally like went on these mile-long chats with was originally Shampoo and Vexer, and I've never actually played teams with them or a CBCB tournament with them. I think they stacked a team with Prophet one season, and I was like, "Yep, okay, you guys, you guys go clean house." But it's definitely those are my two comparison points. It's definitely just like these league chats, just kind of analyzing the league matchup to death, playing practice games, and then the CBCB was like, let's rope in Astro's sister. Let's suck her into this, this silly competitive scene.
Hasn't she, if I remember right? Sorry.
I think Starfire's got like.
Starfire's had a couple of good wins, if I remember rightly.
Yes.
I think I remember coming back a few days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she might have a better record than Astro. Like I actually haven't counted, but we're definitely, I think, a little bit focused on her games, and then more inclined to just be like, okay, I just need to take my own turns in my own games because I have like a pile of other life things I need to do. But it's time consuming. It's much more time consuming to play teams than to just even League, I think.
Which is
when you're actually, because League, you're analyzing the matchup, but you're not like conferring over a turn together.
Right. So then I wonder, Dev, have you talked to Eden and Shui how the mentorship is gonna play out? Like, what do you guys envision that kind of dynamic to be?
Well, I think the plan. I think Eden's plan. I mean, first of all, I can't take any credit for organizing. Oh, yeah. I'm just involved. Eden's been crazy behind the scenes. Like, if you could see the amount of effort and Fuzzy, like you've seen all of the effort and the messages that Eden's put in. It's insane the amount of effort. So first of all, big shout out to Eden because it's been pretty incredible.
Oh my God, huge.
Yeah. But I think what Eden's vision is that I think when it first started off is that everybody would have a mentor, and the sign-ups originally were kind of sign up if you want a mentor, and there's a few people that have signed up for the leagues that haven't signed up for a mentor, and so I think there's some discussion at the moment about whether or not we kind of suggest, are you sure you don't want a mentor? Because and what's really nice is the amount of people that have signed up to be a mentor, again, I think is reflective of why I keep coming back to the community and staying on the Discord, because I'm like you, Fuzzy. I'm not in any other groups on Discord. This is it. Like, I'm not kind of flying around loads of other ones.
Exactly.
And so I think the idea will be, it's up to the two individuals whether it will be specifically just typing and chatting in the Discord, or if people prefer the idea of a voice call, then they can do it that way. But I think in my head, it will be practice games with your mentor, and they'll set up kind of both sides of what the matchups are going to be, and then you either play and talk through afterwards what some of the turns, perhaps analyzing some of the turns afterwards. And I think it'll be different to each individual person what they want from it. because we don't want it to be pushy. And I think sometimes the problem, you feel like, oh, I've got this mentor and they're trying to teach me all of this stuff, and actually I just kind of want to learn a little bit, and I don't want to kind of get into the, like you say, in terms of their level of enjoyment, they might not want to do the amount of deep dive that we might be willing to give.
Imagine why anyone would want to play a game without spending 3 days discussing one move with a couple of teams. Like, I can't imagine why someone would go, not really my cup of tea. But no, I mean, all that said, sorry, actually, I don't want to interrupt, but I do have thoughts.
I was just going to say, sorry. And so I think we are going to kind of put another call out for people that have signed up and who haven't requested a mentor, to maybe say, look, are you sure you don't want one? Because even if you don't use them, it will just be really nice to have that sounding board. But then we're also thinking of anybody that doesn't, any mentors that are unused, if you will, kind of doing the old air quotations on that one, is putting together a little Discord group where all of the mentors will be involved. And if somebody that's in the academy wants to kind of post a game link or ask a question, then the mentors will be there to kind of jump in and offer any opinions and guidance and all the rest of it. So I think that's what we're envisaging. And yeah, there's been a couple of people I've reached out to who are new, and we've played some games and I've offered some opinions and guidance here and there, and it's just quite nice to try and give back, really. But I mean, that said, I'm still relatively new and I still make a lot of mistakes, so it's not like I'm an expert.
You can't use that excuse anymore, Dev. Not after this one. We agree. It was on the fine print. It says so in the fine print. You can't use that anymore.
No, in all seriousness, I am not remotely surprised that we right now have more people signed up to mentor than mentees. And I should add, just based on the community, just based on me knowing the community and knowing that this whole idea of like apprentice and journeyman cups is completely new. Mm-hmm. What's, I think, driving Eden's, confidence in the idea is that she's seen it work in the Blood Bowl community. Sorry. Yeah. My brain was slipping between people for a second. No, Eden is a he. But he's seen it in Blood Bowl and is, for now, just more or less lifting their system over. But I definitely imagine, running it over the course of a couple seasons and having it evolve in, whatever direction it eventually becomes for the Summoner Wars community. The first season is definitely always the hardest because it's the newest and people don't really know what they're getting into, and you have to flog it a lot more. Yeah. Eden has been absolutely tireless about, tagging everyone in the Introduce Yourself channel and getting Massimo to put up a link in the Summoners or, in the League pages. And I feel like this is kind of exhausting season 1 efforts that will amortize themselves in ensuing seasons once there's a group that's done it before and people can talk it up. And again, Devlinfish, I know it's not your thing with your girlfriend just based on personalities, but I mean, I would like to reach the partner at home. It's just like
No, I don't want her in the league because she'll destroy me with polar dwarfs. So she's not allowed to play it.
That's the thing. It's not going to be. It's absolutely not going to be everyone's cup of tea. It's not going to be everyone's partner's cup of tea. But I definitely wouldn't want anyone to not do it based on really preconceptions of what gamers are like.
Yeah. No, I agree. Definitely agree. Because it's funny because when I chat to like people at work or whatever about I went to Board Game Cafe the other day, or we got some new board games, so we're playing those on the weekend, and people are like, what, you play board games? And they find it's still quite a strange hobby to some people. And then you start chatting to them about it, and then they get actually really interested when you start to kind of tell them about some of the games and how different they are. And I've then brought some in and kind of lent some to people. And yes, I do think there is still this little stigma with board gamers and kind of people that play games like this. So
and video gamers too. Right. Like as someone who, is kind of realizing there's tensions between people that bring, video gamer preconceptions and board game preconceptions to Summoner Wars. My feeling about video games was just always just assuming the community is toxic, just having this very, and, just sort of the reasons I wouldn't dip my toe in to begin with, and then Summoner Wars kind of, A, upended that, but B, I also had a hand in, actively upending that.
No, the
Um,
rumors are true, Fuzzy. We're all sweaty.
yeah,
The rumors are all true.
absolutely. But no, I mean, my point being though is like when my husband and I lived in LA, we kept trying to find a third player for Settlers of Catan. Like it was a very low bar, but I could just, at
Yeah.
some point I just like kind of laughed it off, comparing it to like a string of bad dates. Like just over and over we kept trying to bring someone in to like play Settlers with us, and they'd just like bounce from the game or gaming, like
Right.
just in different ways, and kind of in hindsight kind of hilarious how hard it was to find a third
Did you
player
guys
for
let them
Settlers.
win?
What?
Did you guys let them win? That's how you get them in.
It mostly we lost people. For Settlers specifically, there's two places to lose people. One is at the rules dump, and
Yeah.
the other really is just the fact that the setup is so pivotal to the rest of the game, picking your tiles to begin with.
Yeah.
But I mean, the point being with that story is that we eventually gave up and, started, I think, playing Pandemic with each other. And I think now that we're in Seattle, there's probably a very different, nerdier pool of friends that would be super into our gaming.
Oh yeah,
But
there's a collection of players in a Seattle area. I know Breeze
Yep.
is in Seattle. Yeah.
no, absolutely. So we are getting together for Memorial Day.
Oh nice.
But
Nice.
point being, my husband and I are in a different stage of life where now that we have kids, it's hard. It's much harder for the two of us to game with friends, especially when the friends who would like our games are also parents of little kids. So it's I don't think we'd have as hard a time finding a third player for Settlers of Catan, where we are now in Seattle. But it's much harder to get a game to a physical table when the table is cluttered either with unwashed dishes or kid toys. So, I think that's what the online community has been for me is, these are gamer friends, and, they're different from real world friends, but, I get to get my gaming fix in a way that's really difficult in real life right now. And I get the Seattle Summoner Wars community, but that's just luck of the draw. That's luck of the draw that Breeze the guy who really wanted to organize the local scene happens to be the one in my city.
Yeah, makes me. Is there a scene in the UK for you guys, Dev?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and there's not one that I found, and I have put out a shout on the Discord a couple of times to ask about where the UK players are and things like that. But just in terms of population, we're almost 10% population of North America. So instantly, kind of player pool is going to be a bit lower. And so for me, I haven't found one local to where I am. At all. Even in the board game cafe that I go to that's in the city, there's not really enough interest, because I was chatting to them about it, whether many people play it and all the rest of it, and it doesn't really get that much kind of attention where I am. So I don't know, it would be nice to find. I know there are a few UK players on the Discord, and I think Aaron was saying that, is it the third or second? I can't remember, highest percentage of people that listen to the podcast and things like that. But but not one that I found. And it's funny, like what Fuzzy was saying about trying to find people to play with. I think me and my girlfriend, when we just moved house, and randomly I ended up chatting to one of our neighbors that lives a few doors down, just when we were putting the bins out in the morning. We just kept bumping into each other at that same time every week, and so we ended up chatting. And then it really, like when you get older, it's kind of awkward making friends. Like, I'm gay, and it becomes a bit weird when you and this guy was like, "Is it really weird for me to ask for your number?" So, and then I went home, and then the first thing both of us said is, maybe they'll like board games. Like we were trying to encourage them into board gaming, like a really like a weird swingers club kind of thing. Is like, we can play board games.
Oh, it's harder, I think, just in modern life to make friends. I don't even know that it's, tied, it's definitely tied to age and life stage. But, Vexer and I were actually just chatting about this, is just sort of, and we will see, we have met up once, we will see each other at the Seattle meetup, but it's almost silly that, like, we socialize by listening to each other stream. There's just something like just completely nonsensical about that. Like, just
It's
like,
my generation calls it parasocial, Fuzzy. Like a parasocial relationship.
Talking about that, and I don't necessarily know how I would feel about streaming if Ben and Vexer hadn't both been people that I'd met in person before streaming with them.
Ben
like,
and Vexer people.
It's possible.
Oh, no. There's actually an easy answer to this, and my 4-year-old will tell you over and over and over. He has not let this go. I watched him stream with Vexer I watched Ben stream with Vexer with my son on my lap at one point, because how much more ridiculous is that than watching a football game with him or something? And he told me over and over, Ben is a monster.
Oh, the profile picture. Oh, I see.
The profile picture of the Frost Shaman. Ben is a monster.
A very handsome monster.
He's so enthusiastic about Ben is a monster.
I remember, when is the monster gonna eat Vexer or something?
Yes, yes. Yes, and I don't know, but I honestly don't know, in what universe does this make sense that like grown-ups are modeling this behavior on Twitch? I honestly, I mean, I'm scared for their generation. Like, are you guys gonna have friends, or are you just gonna like interact online? But I don't necessarily know what's happening to society over this. But at the same time, I see the friends I've made in Summoner Wars as, I guess I see them as, they're virtual friends, which is different from real life friends, but they're real people to me. So I don't have all the answers definitely on where society is going.
What
if all our friends are virtual? It's something I never really ever thought about. It's one of those things that, you don't think it's going to be relevant to you because it's streaming on Twitch. I've said this before. It was just not anywhere near my radar. So, not a problem. And now I'm like, really? I'm doing this? But...
Beast and I have shared God knows how many messages, and that's it. And so then even hearing him speak is kind of a bit strange. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, because that's not how we know each other at all. And so it's almost like it sets almost like a precedence of how you interact. Like, oh, we're meant to be typing to each other, not talking. And then, I don't know, it's quite funny, isn't it? These online friendships or acquaintances, or whatever you want to call them. It's it's weird.
No, I think when we first started doing the Scuffles, that was kind of amazing, when all these people that had only ever typed to each other got to chat with each other over voice.
Oh, yeah. Wait, no, didn't Artebreeze also have something of this sort prior to the Scuffle?
It was level 3 CP. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, was it level 3 CP?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was this Summoner Showdown. I think Artebreeze Artebreeze was on it at least once, because I remember watching that.
I see.
I think that's the thing, though. Like, the Summoner Showdowns were parasocial for me. Like, I knew these people and they didn't know me. So it was a very different relationship watching them, because you do feel like this, it's like this fake relationship, right? Like, you kind of, your brain tricks you into thinking they're your friends when they have no idea who you are and could care less.
Right.
But the funny thing is, time passes, I'm part of the community, and now it actually is two-way. Like now they actually do know who I am. And same with Waterdeep. It's like I had this very strange parasocial relationship with Waterdeep for a long time. In the sense of like stalking first edition and, being on the sidelines of these debates with Killer Cactus over, game design. And, so that's the one that's the weirdest for me, is that like that relationship going from parasocial to virtual, social, now I actually know this person and, have these long DM exchanges with him from time to time.
Has Waterdeep been on the Scuffle?
He has not. We have asked him and he's been life busy.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because I haven't seen him post as well on the Discord. Interesting.
No, he says he's going to be life busy through like either the next couple months or the next year. He's not sure yet, but he said he said he was going to keep writing guides and play in the tournaments, but I don't think he hasn't been on the Discord and he hasn't been playing ranked play.
Got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing though, is just like, for me, it's a different experience, like getting to know these people that I've typed at for ages. And I don't necessarily know what it's like if you're, new or lurking on the Discord, like, like just, as a parent, I'm like, is this good? Is it bad? Or parasocial relationships? I would have said they're all bad, except, now I'm part of this community in this position. So this very strange do as I say, do as I do, thought process in my head when I have kids. And this is going to be much more heavily part of their lives than it was for me at that age.
Right. I think everyone on the Discord is civil enough that, I haven't met a problematic character on Discord yet, so.
No,
and I think. Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
I was going to say, like, I think that, or I get the feeling, or I'd hope that if somebody like that did come along, then it just wouldn't be accepted, and so I just don't think it would last. I don't think it's like something that would grow on the Discord ever, because of the way everybody is and their attitudes. I just think it would be excluded. I think it would just be stamped out, and that's one of the really nice things I think about the Discord.
Well, I mean, we've had pretty big personality conflicts between good people. Like, there's never, I agree, there hasn't been like anyone who's been toxic, but I don't think a universe exists where everyone magically gets along either. I think the hallmark of our Discord, and I do think I've been part of this, is actually working through the differences rather than treating it as like this hit and run.
Right.
Like people actually, if there is a car accident, then people actually stick around the scene of the crime and deal with it.
That's a good way to put it.
But I don't think it's possible for everyone to just truly magically get along. Like just too many differences of opinion.
Yeah.
But, I agree too that if someone's like genuinely toxic rather than just, getting on this person's nerves or whatever, then, they don't last long. It's not that kind of place.
No, yeah, that's more what I was referring to, is toxic nature rather than disagreements. But I think disagreements can be healthy as well. Like, and I think it's one of those things that you have to learn growing up, is that disagreements are going to happen, and it's how you deal with them healthily that kind of is the important thing, isn't it? But yeah.
No, I mean, I'm a big air it out person. And it's weird in a virtual environment just because the things you type can have a very different impact from, a discussion you have with your spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, in general, I think, it's not like our community is some kind of utopia. It's just more, I think, there's enough of a sense that there's a real person behind the avatar that you stick around if if someone gets on your nerves over something.
No, that was another nice thing about going back to what the work that Eden's been doing, is Eden was quite passionate about making sure that kind of anyone under the age of 18 or that was a kid wasn't to be excluded from it, but also that there were things in place to kind of potentially protect kids and make sure that they were in a safe environment. And again, little things like that are just kind of nice community.
That's a tough one. And
Mm.
Ciabatta's been pivotal in those conversations because now he has the
Yeah.
experience of having been a kid in the first edition forums and an adult in a leadership
Yeah.
position now.
Yeah.
And, he's been very vocal about how, like, hey, first edition was a positive experience for me. Online gaming communities were much less positive for some of my friends in different communities. And he said, when I was a kid, I would have been an easy mark for grooming. I would have been an easy mark for someone to just flatter me with, like, how mature I was, and this is a place where he gets taken seriously, and
Mm.
and yeah, I definitely see that. I also definitely see that it could be, you never know if there's a 12-year-old on Discord whether their home life is wonderful or if it's awful.
Yeah.
Like, I've definitely been proud of our little fan fiction writing community being LGBT
Oh,
friendly
yeah.
from the jump.
Yeah.
Like maybe someone jumping into the community doesn't find that kind of inclusiveness everywhere.
Hmm.
And definitely, like props to, I still have not asked how to pronounce her name, but Sayurputa, for setting a lot of things in motion by coming out as trans. Like, it's in some ways that's, like, you could argue, like, this long chain of causing effect is that, when she came out, I
Hmm.
quote unquote
Yeah.
came out as female, and and a lot of things snowballed from there.
Hmm.
You can take the snowball argument a little ridiculously far, but
Yeah. Yeah,
that
for
was
sure.
that was the start of a lot of things. Is just, I think the community basically making a decision to, level 3 CPU specifically, as the admin person who did not see himself as a moderator at all, and did not see himself as having real power other than to do anything other than pin posts. Like, that was why he was a community leader, is just to help out with the logistics of League.
Oh,
But, he kind of put on a moderator hat that he didn't feel comfortable with, like, and
interesting.
just kind of said, we're going to be inclusive.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, that's a secret. Like, it's stolen power for all of us. Like, we were all anointed to pin posts and just kind of took advantage of the.
Power hungry. Yeah.
I mean, it did evolve. Like, it definitely evolved. Like, that was maybe the first time since I was around, at least, that there was kind of a question of, hey, what happens now, basically. Like Sayer Tupa just came out. Now what happens? And
Yeah.
I think what happened was very, very positive. And
Regular. Yeah.
it's reflected in who people ship in the fan fiction channels. You get some interesting couples.
Yeah, and especially I don't know, from Plaid Hat's end as well. I feel like we've been getting like slightly like more and more involvement from them, and especially with like Nick finally coming in and creating server rules and whatnot. And also just
That
and
was
yeah, go ahead.
No, go on. That was another big factor. I think is not even just Nick creating server rules, which obviously is a huge milestone, but just Nick playing League, and now Colby playing League.
Oh, yeah, that was a big one. Nick almost made it to Division 1. Yeah.
I don't know
Oh,
what the
really?
rules are, but who advances now that Beast is officially not?
Yeah. I'm actually gonna. I think that's gonna be Lena or Gaspesian, isn't it?
I haven't checked. I don't know the answer. I won't like speculate. But did they have better records than Nick?
Oh, is it a cross division kind of thing? That's a good question.
I have no idea. I truly, like, this is where, like, as the supposed authority figure, you go, I have no idea, and I don't want you to take my opinions any more seriously than anyone else's.
I feel like I remember
Interesting.
that it'll come from the same division that someone dropped out of. But I'm not.
Okay, interesting. Yeah,
Well,
then
I
it's got
mean,
to be Lena.
that's at least what happened
Best of luck,
when I
Lena.
did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I owed Lena the first 2 games. This is the imposter syndrome speaking. I owed her those 2 games anyway. She was supposed to win the first set.
I think she did complain. She did bitch to me about like, why do I always go second?
Yeah, yeah.
That
It
might
was
have
a
been a
steal.
season ago. It might have been
It was a
season ago.
steal. Yeah.
She was not happy about some steal. I don't know if it was actually against you. I don't remember. And
Yep.
Team Germany as a whole had a grudge against you.
They're all fantastic players. I've played all of them, and I think I beat Stuff D2 at some point in the last tournament.
Like, how do you feel to have like an entire country gunning for your head?
Yeah, no,
Kidding.
that's I'm gonna be on the lam for a bit. I'm gonna lay low.
No, that's exciting. That like, it's just exciting when people find their place in all these different corners, like playtesting. You know, I feel like when I first joined, it did feel like the competitive scene was the only scene.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things that makes me, I wish we were bigger in terms of just having more people like write fan fiction, or if Osmano and Lark's custom factions
Custom
server takes off
factions, yeah.
again.
There were some cool ideas taking off recently. Honestly, yeah, there's a lot of these niches that you're pointing out, Fuzzy. And now we got a new one with the Academy too. Like I didn't even know that there were more mentors and there were mentees. That's crazy.
I'm not surprised at all. Like we're all
thought it was going to be
like
the
this.
opposite.
No, I think we're all the slightly dorky enthusiasts of a game that is at the end of the day still pretty niche. So and I do think the mentor-mentee ratio will like I feel like it'll balance itself over time as the apprentice, the Summoner Academy becomes more of an established thing.
Right.
I definitely see this as kind of first time it's ever been done syndrome.
Right.
But I mean, think about it. Like a lot of people have played CBCB teams, and a lot of people have had a buddy through League. Like I would have found League lonely without buddies. But I also don't know if I would have been any good if, like, my early friends hadn't been, a lot more ambitious than I was.
Right.
Yeah, I think for me as a new player, I think League forced me to play factions that I didn't play very much, and I think that was really helpful. But like you said, it felt like I had to do practice games in the build-up. Like when I was first playing, when I really wanted to try and do well and prove that I was learning stuff, that I really wanted to win, then I was putting in loads of practice games. Whereas I really feel like I've taken my foot off the gas on this season, where I think I timed out of 3 because I went home and I just put my phone down and didn't touch my phone for about 5 days, and then lo and behold, I'd lost 2 games to inactivity and all the rest of it. But it's but it is time consuming, the League. But I loved it. I just loved learning new factions, and like I said, I think it helped having Beast to practice games with and to try and learn from. I think it would have been a bit lonelier otherwise. But
yeah, I think that's a pretty natural arc. Like, I feel like I put in my practice games early, not in the sense of like, oh, I need to practice and be good, but just like, hey, I want to learn the cards before I play the real game.
Right.
And so, to me, that was like what practice games was. I honestly, that's what I thought I was practicing. It turns out the people I was practicing with were practicing with the intention of rising through the ranks, which I didn't have the ambition for at the time.
Shampoo?
I definitely got, yes, shampoo. I definitely got sucked in because, I got sucked into battles at the top, or, near the top. I'm not at the top, but
you're doing fantastic, Fuzzy.
Oh, I'm kind of parked where I'm comfortable right now in terms of investment. There's definitely there's definitely a next level of gameplay that I don't think is necessarily unattainable, but it's not something I want to invest in.
Mm,
You know, like it's not worth the investment for me to
right.
try to get to Vexor level. And
Yeah.
and Vexor has said it's not worth investment for him to stay at Vexor level. And I
Huh.
think both of those are just completely legit and healthy attitudes toward
Yeah.
the game.
Yeah.
Like
For sure. I remember.
there's a
I don't
joy
know.
in
Go ahead.
mastery. There's a joy in
Yeah.
being good at something. And there's
Yeah.
also just being realistic about like life priorities and life outside
Yeah.
Summoner Wars and how much this competitive focus is really worth.
Right.
But I mean, that's where I am. And the truth is, I'm on the fence. I might take a season off League Two, which I haven't in
Mhm.
like 2 years, just for the sake of having that little mental life reset. And it's
Right.
it's hard. It's hard too because I do still love the experience. It's gotten a little bit easier, I think, to sort of sit at the table somewhat mindlessly and just play my 2 games and
Right.
my 2 games a week, stay in D2 and, don't practice obsessively but I'm not gonna lie. I do better when I listen to Vexer and Ben's streams. Like, so there is still kind of this practice investment even when it's fun. But I'm at a point now where even when I can kind of hold position kind of mindlessly, it is still a time commitment that I'm probably better
Right.
off like just take another season, take one season off, take that little thing off my plate, and it's okay, I'll come back.
Yeah, I think when I was looking forward to staying in League Three, and then I think I was deep down a little bit disappointed when I got put into Division Two because I felt like I was punching above my weight up in Division Two, and it's just what I feel time commitment for, and feeling comfortable in, and all the rest of it. But
Mhm. Yeah.
That's what it is. I think the difference though when you're kind of entering D2 for the first time, the punching away above your weight part isn't like skill level or game IQ. It's just investing the time into trying to make the
Time.
perfect move.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
No, I,
Yeah,
I
because
feel
I
like
think
people.
all the players at Div 2 are great players. And I think again, given time, anyone could make a great move.
But I do think people sort of overestimate the difference between D2 and D3. Again, because
Mm,
there's this fixed format where you have like 5 tiers. And and also, realistically, because some of these guys are the ones that are winning like Plaid Hat Games tournaments and kind of
right,
winning in other formats. But I do
right.
think there's this is my theory of Summoner Wars. I do think there's kind of a skill cliff like mid D3. There is a point where I'm, for example, like it's slightly awkward, but I am undefeated against Sayurptupa.
Huh.
And she would need to kind of, I would need, and it's not like that big a difference. It's not like I've ever won by a lot,
Right.
but it's there is some threshold that you cross. Like there is some imaginary boundary of just some combination of, I think, playing for value, like probably mastering the value game and thinking in terms of trades where
Yeah.
crossing that boundary makes a substantial difference. And then suddenly you're playing with the big boys. It's like, no, you're there. You're not, there isn't like another tier above you. There is a
Yeah.
cliff that you cross
Yeah.
sort of mid D3 ish, it changes, but you cross that and you are there. You're capable of beating Vexer and Prophet. You're not likely to, but there isn't like another huge jump. There isn't, the way there is that I think that jump in D3. But again, it's the imposter syndrome. I think a lot of the people that have crossed that cliff without knowing it kind of almost are too intimidated by D2. Like it feels harder than it is.
That's interesting. Yeah, quite possibly. Quite possibly. I just quickly got up some of the names, and yeah, it is a crazy good field. And then I was looking at League Three, and man, some of the names in League Three are so good as well, right? Like it's just, yeah, it's good
Like
all the
I
way
said,
through.
like I said, where that imaginary line is, I think changes from season to season. But I think the fact that it tends to be like right in the middle of D3 makes people not realize how similar D3 is to D2. And also just the fact that D1, and obviously who's in D1 at any given time varies.
Yeah.
But I don't think the D1 players are as much better than D2, so to speak, as this sort of D1, D2, D3 clump is above like where you haven't crossed that cliff. Like
Right.
where, but again, it's like a mental map that's at odds with 5 division tiers.
Right.
So I think people definitely get it in their heads that there's like 5, cliffs to surmount. There's 5 staggered steps or something. And when I'm kind of streaming or teaching or otherwise trying to help people get good at this game, even though I don't think it's a prerequisite at all to get good, to enjoy it, I kind of feel like the interesting hard part to get people across is that cliff mid D3. And then once you're there, even though you don't realize it because you're suffering from massive imposter syndrome the way seemingly everyone at this game does.
Yeah.
And I don't fully get why. Like, I don't get why necessarily, like, this game engenders imposter syndrome like no other.
Lots of modest people, it would seem. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming out going, yeah, I'm amazing. Watch, here I am. Watch out. Everyone.
Well, I'm a little bit like, is Beast the one to watch? That was a pretty fast rise. And now you're like, yeah, cool. I'd like to play test. But I don't think that's uncommon in this game at all. It's just, you're, and again, I see it as a growth mindset thing. Is like, yes, you could, not you personally necessarily, but anyone listening can get that good.
Yeah.
It's not really a question of, it's not a question of like your capacity to. It's a question of, well, is that what interests you? Is that where you want to invest?
Right.
Is that how you get enjoyment? And the answer is, and it's not. I think it's good that that's not the only direction to go in order to get enjoyment out of this game. Right. And it's also nothing wrong with wanting to be number one. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being like, I like to win.
Yeah.
But I like, and I'm trying to foster these other directions where you can be part of the community without having that competitive drive, that competitive, I need to be number one. I think there's a lot of Johnnies in disguise as Spikes in this game.
It's
you know what I mean? Like, people that look like Spike but are actually Johnny under the hood.
Or Timmy's. I actually wonder how many people know the Johnny, Timmy, Spike categorization from Magic. But I hear you squarely. It's good that there are many avenues for enjoying Summoner Wars. I really think that the real original pull of Summoner Wars is that there are a lot of factions for you to try out, and how deep you want to go into it, how much you want to master it, is entirely up to you. The beauty of the game is that it expresses itself in so many different ways.
That speaks to the Johnny thing of like, this game is my form of self-expression. I will clarify. So the Spike, Johnny, and Timmy are these Magic the Gathering design architects, archetypes. Like, who are you designing the game for? So Spike is the competitive player. They want to build a deck that can win. Johnny kind of sees their deck as this form of creative self-expression. They want to build a deck that's interesting or in interesting ways. And then Timmy, the much maligned Timmy, who doesn't deserve to be maligned as some kind of chump, just like wants the experience of fun. Like, I am playing a big creature that kills another big creature. I do something that has this big, huge effect, and it is emotionally satisfying and cinematic.
That's right.
I honestly think, if you had to sum up my Summoner Wars experience in a nutshell, is I would have seen my husband and I as both Johnnies. Like, we'll play each other in order to uncover the design space, to explore the strategy space.
Yeah.
And Summoner Wars brought out basically both my Timmy and my Spike sides in a way that I never knew existed.
Huh.
I didn't know I wanted to climb the competitive ladder, and I didn't know that I wanted to write fan fiction about a game.
Huh.
And I think as a parent, you kind of end up guilting yourself over anything that's purely for your own self-enjoyment rather than time away from the family. But in terms of like, is it good for me personally to realize I do have a Spike side or and or a Timmy side? I do think that's been good.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of that self-discovery in gaming, as even for a middle-aged mom.
But then I think that's why people are then drawn to certain factions as well, isn't it? Like, I know, like, when I first started out, I just thought assassinations were really cool. And that was pretty much like what I enjoyed doing. And that's what I was always looking out for. And Beast will tell you, we often would chat about my mid game being, I would use the word awful. Beast probably wouldn't, but my mid game was poor. And like, that's because I would have an all right setup, and then all I would be doing is focused on killing, and then I'd have to get myself out of trouble with some sort of funky assassination. But that's what I enjoyed at the start, and then and so I was always looking, and that's I think why I was drawn to Avians fairly early on as a faction that I really enjoyed playing, because it offered me the opportunity.
So
And they're also really good.
Thank you.
No, so I'm curious what you think, because I feel like that's also part, even apart from kind of, the Magic Gathering archetype personalities we were talking about. Like, I feel like that journey from like, aggro play to learning how to play conservative and play for value, and then learning to combine the two is pretty much a journey that I think everyone goes up. I feel like you can't avoid that particular journey if you want to make it to D2.
I think I actually avoided that journey, Fuzzy. So one thing that, and this is a very, I'm going to bring up a very interesting point, actually. A lot of my growth as a player happened when I'm not playing. I hopped into this game around the time the Crimson Order or Mountain Vargath were releasing, so I've got lots of things to catch up on. So I spent all that time really looking at other people's games and understanding why they make the moves that they do. So you guys saw in the earlier fight where I denied my own my own Spirit Mage. That was actually a bad play. I think I could have just spared, not used the weaving. Anyway, lots of things have gone awry in that match, but things like that I don't think occur to the normal player unless they see someone do it.
Yeah.
Like playing as Daymar, watching, Prophet hit his own cultist, that was new to me. Watching people hit their gates with Shadow Elves would have never dawned on me, and that really made me think of all the other beautiful things I could do. It was not in a game. I was not practicing anything with anyone. I was watching. So I think there's a bit of that growth too that happens when you're not engaging in it.
Oh, absolutely. Like, that's one of the biggest things I learned from Vexer, actually, is just like really, well, I mean, not even learned from him, but kind of realizing that that's one of the things that he did that gave him this edge over everyone else, was just that he watched a lot of games. And actually, I know this to this day. Like, if I'm watching a lot of games, like just a high volume of tournament games, I definitely play my league games better afterwards. I don't always want to do that. And also I'll say this too, it's watching games, it's not really even just about like learning specific moves, like, oh, I didn't think of attacking my own gate. I think it's also, you do absorb how players trade. Like you do absorb, I think without necessarily even formalizing it, you get that mental picture of what's a good trade, what's a bad trade, and the trade-offs within trades. Like, is it worth getting this unit killed so that I can put a gate over here? Like that kind of thing, where, I don't know if anyone is smart enough to actually analyze every single move numerically. Let me rephrase. No one is. I'm not. but you definitely get that intuitive sense of, essentially, is this unit placement worth it? Is this positioning worth it? Like, there's probably nowhere to
Yeah.
learn about gate placement other than by watching a relatively high volume of games.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there's no.
That's a big skill.
Yeah, for sure. That was tough learning, and it is still tough learning gate placement.
Yeah,
But
still is a very
No.
tough decision.
I feel like you kind of don't know without, like, unless you're willing to play that number of games yourself, which, I mean, some people are crazy enough to, but hey, the next best thing is kind of watching them. But I think that's the thing for me where I can truly have no idea unless I've watched a couple games and have some idea, like, what it, just, why did he do those gates a knight's move versus like the
Right.
wide gates?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
I
always
think I
hard to know
remember.
too whether it worked or whether they won in spite of or because of it.
Yeah, I think I remember when Beast and I were chatting a while back, and I'm sure he brought up something about that he felt like it was unfair that some of these top players in tournaments have spent years probably learning how to play like they play, and then we just get
Oh,
to come along and you did say
yeah.
that, didn't you? And then we just get
Yeah,
to come
yeah,
along.
yeah.
We just get to come along and watch their games and kind of just take years of experience and just start,
Yeah,
just kind of
yeah.
making it for ourselves.
Actually,
I had kind of a similar conversation with Waterdeep in a different, very different train, but I was just saying that I think it's good that Summoner Wars has all these ways of lowering the barrier to entry.
for sure.
Like, you can watch a pretty high volume of tournament games in much, 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 much less time than it would take to play that many games. And you're watching some of the best players. And, for me, I actually do remember this conversation with Waterdeep. I was just like, it means that, like, a middle-aged mom can be, fairly competitive
Yeah.
on not necessarily like the same time investment that it would take to be competitive at anyone else. Now I remember I was saying
Right.
that, like, I do think of Summoner Wars as like this amazing offspring of chess and Magic the Gathering. Chess and
Yeah.
Magic the Gathering had a baby. But would
Yeah.
I ever invest in either chess or Magic the Gathering the way I've somehow ended up invested in Summoner Wars? I mean, no, because, like, you can't get good at those games without a lot, just a lot more investment than I'm willing to put in. Whereas Summoner Wars, I think, has fairly quick avenues to, to catch up, basically.
Mm.
Between the community kind of bending over backwards to offer strategies and tips and review games. And like you said, all these games in league and tournaments being available to review. Like, I think that,
Yeah,
I never
that's
thought of it
huge.
as a catch-up mechanism, but
Yeah,
I like the
it's
analogy. I'm
huge.
going to use it from now on.
Just when you thought there were no more catch-up events in Summoner Wars Second Edition.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
wait till we print out Magic Train.
Magic Train is like, like you get 2 gates from Prophet's deck. Like, Magic Drain is just like drain Prophet's game IQ. But you're right, though. I mean, that's essentially what it is when you can watch those games. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I feel like we're such nerds. It's like, it's not like you have to do all that stuff to enjoy the game. I think it's just
Yeah.
that, it's doable in a way that's really not with a lot of games. It's doable on middle-aged mom time in a way that, it is more of a time sink than probably my family is thrilled with. But, you can, it's more doable than in a lot of other games.
Right, for sure. For sure.
And people have gotten good fast. There's always this, I never know, like, these people that appear on the leaderboards, like, seemingly out of the blue, like,
Yeah, we have a lot of
without
new.
any, but without any, like, interaction within the community that we're aware of.
Right.
Like, that's,
And
like, did he learn in a vacuum?
You would see these characters too that only show up in tournaments, right? Like Elrad, Memora CF. They would only show up during tournaments, and just to win all the way up to finals, all that stuff. Yeah, there are a
both
lot of
those,
people that don't engage.
no, well, both of those guys were in League for a long time before me, though.
Right, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
I don't think that's uncommon. It's the people that were kind of heavily engaged at one point and then now are just kind of able to sort of stay where they are on low effort. Like just kind of like, they're at some baseline skill level and can just kind of play at a high level without necessarily, reinvesting, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
But that's a good thing. Again, I see that as a good thing too. But those two names definitely are familiar names. But even some of the people in League who like are familiar names that I know have been around a long time but don't like interact publicly on Discord, I sort of wonder like how, really how plugged in they are. Like, do you chat with your opponent's back channel like Vexer does, but interact rarely in the public channels? Or like, do you just kind of play League and, have a life outside Discord and don't use Discord other than to set up games? Like I've always been curious, like both for the League players and the people in ranked play that don't really, engage socially. It's like, it's just curiosity. Like, do you read guides? Do you watch videos? Or do you really just figure it all out on your own?
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? Thinking about how other people learn and things like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I think I would have got bored if it wasn't for the community to keep me interested. I think, but I think I would have just fallen back on just playing a physical game at home every now and again, and that would have been me sorted. But yeah, having the community and seeing so many other people who are passionate about a game which I think is amazing and kind of gets me just thinking, just a puzzle. I love it. And that's just seeing so many other people out there who are good at it, and that's what I really enjoy, just being part of.
Well, that's.
Do you think you'll show up at Essen?
Sorry?
Think you'll ever make it to Essen, the game, whatever that or Spiel, that gaming, the big gaming convention in Essen?
And I mean, it's close enough for me to probably head over. I wouldn't. We've never been to one. It's funny enough. Yesterday, me and my girlfriend just booked tickets to our first ever board game convention. So that felt like we've just crossed the line into a new kind of nerd territory.
Yes, you'll never go back.
Well,
No.
you can meet the German players who are going to be there this year.
Yeah.
Well, we've run out of time, so we should wrap up. Anything you guys want to say or chat about before we do?
Again, shout out to Eden, Chewy, and Devlin, and the rest of the people that are putting up the academy effort. I encourage all the new players, please join and let's make this a success.
Thank you so much. Actually, I'm going to quickly check, but okay, Eden's in chat, by the way. So Eden, shout out, glad you're here in person. I am just reading super quickly. Yeah, Ben Fuzzy Beast signed the mentor form.
If I have time, I was thinking about it, Eden, but we'll see. I'm down to mentor, but it sounds like we have more more mentors than there are players. So I don't think you guys are short on that.
That's where I've been too. Is I'm there if you need it, but right now we need more people to sign up.
Yeah.
Oh, we do not. Wait, Eden, we do not what? We do not what?
Oh,
we want mentors. Okay, nice.
Okay, all right.
Nice.
They got that wrong.
I would second, just quickly. I'll second what Beast has said. Eden's work behind the scenes has been crazy, kind of just to watch. And yeah, it's been really impressive. And a big shout out to you guys for putting things like this on the Scuffle and just making it a really enjoyable place to be. So, and yeah, clearly super nice, because I was planning on only having a chat for like half an hour, maybe an hour at the most. And I don't think we even got into dissecting, like talking about the game. I think we just lost it, didn't we? So yeah.
That's what Ben and I were expecting, is that we'd play this game and chat for like 15 minutes, and that would be the format. And instead, it's become this. And
That never happened.
So all about that.
Sorry, Ben.
No, I am as much a culprit. Well, thanks so much for coming on. It is it's been a blast. I'm glad we got to chat for so long.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's right. All right,
All right.
I'll catch you guys later.
Have a good one, guys.
Thanks. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
And stay tuned, everyone, for Scuffles are bi-weekly, so another 2 weeks we'll have another one for you. And as everyone said, head over to the Summoner Wars Discord to check out the new Summoner Academy. All right, I'll catch you guys later.